Hi, good afternoon. This is Brandon Ramey with Century 21, and I'm here with
Mark Richardson with CSMC Mortgage.
Silverio Martinez, Century 21.
Silverio is my partner in crime here. So we're here to talk to you about the Earnest Money Deposit. So after you get your offer accepted, what is an Earnest Money Deposit, Silverio? How would you explain an Earnest Money Deposit?
It's kind of a good, they also call it a good faith deposit. The buyer is actually bringing some money into the equation to assure to the seller that he is actually serious about buying that property.
Okay. And what is customary right now that you typically see for Earnest Money Deposit amounts?
3% of the purchase price, usually.
3%?
Yeah.
Okay, so 3% is pretty customary. And sometimes, what's the lowest amount that you've seen an Earnest Money Deposit accepted at?
I'll probably say $5,000.
5,000. That's pretty common.
Yeah.
Usually less than that, it gets countered. I have seen it. Yeah, I've seen it less. I've in different parts of the market, seen it as low as $500 or even $1,000 for an Earnest Money Deposit. But as Silverio mentioned, it's a good faith deposit that shows your strength as a buyer as well.
Correct.
Because that money, after your offer gets accepted, you have 3 days to get it into escrow. Escrow is a neutral third party, so it doesn't go to the seller. So Silverio's offer gets accepted, he's representing the buyer. They have 3 days now to get this 3%, let's just say out of $500,000, it's $15,000 into an escrow account. Once that gets deposited into escrow, it clears his bank. So what he wants to do is he wants to check with his loan officer, right? And why would he want to check on that before depositing that money into an account? What kind of issues could come up?
Well, we want to make sure he had it.
Okay, has the money first.
The money's actually there. We provided that prior to, which is why we got the qualification.
Right.
Where it came from, did it all just show up in his account all of a sudden?
Okay.
Or is the money's had there for a while? So, but we've determined that prior. And we want to let the buyer know that, hey, this money's going to be coming out of your account tomorrow. Make sure that you have it sorted out.
So it's sourcing the funds though,
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Sourcing where that's coming from. Because sometimes they get gifts from
Yeah,
family members.
and gifts are fine.
Right.
We can purchase a home with a gift. All of it can be a gift. But then we have a gift letter that's provided at that point.
So, but if somebody has cash in a safe and, they show up with a duffel bag of $15,000, how does that work out?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Or if they just deposit it into their bank account and then they
it needs
use
to
that
be
as their
sourced.
earnest money,
Then
it needs to be sourced. And what does that mean?
We need to, where did that money come from? We
Okay.
can't just have, and it's all a money laundering thing, is how
Right.
that comes up. Because money can't just show up, it's gotta have a paper trail.
Okay.
Did you sell a car? That's great, you sold a car, we need the bill of sale. Did you get the money from a friend or your parents or your aunt? Okay, great, it's a gift funds, we can use that. We would need to source it from them too, from their bank account. The best way to have the money seasoned for at least 2 months.
Okay.
If it's in your bank account for 2 months, we don't need to get a source for it.
So usually at least 2
At
months.
least 2 months. Two
then-
bank statements not showing a deposit.
Okay,
Yeah.
not showing the
Now, if
deposit.
there's deposits of bank state or of paycheck
Right.
stubs and things like that, that's perfectly fine. But a large $20,000 deposit, we're gonna want it sourced.
Right.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Okay.
Okay. No, that's perfect. So with the Earnest Money Deposit, again, it's one of the very first things, and the biggest question that typically comes to, especially first-time buyers, is, okay, what happens to that Earnest Money Deposit if I decide to back out of the contract, right? What happens in that situation? So if you're within your time frames, which that's gonna be our next section of what we'll talk about, contingency periods. If you're within your contingency period and your buyer backs out of the contract because something happens, right? They find something in the property that they don't like and they want to get out. What happens to that $15,000, Silverio?
That $15,000 gets refunded to my buyer.
To the buyer.
So you're completely protected.
Always, if we have our contingency period,
Right.
that we still in between that gap,
That time frame.
the time frame,
Right.
then we can get that money back.
Okay.
But if we don't, if we pass that, then that could be a little trouble.
Okay. So some of what we're talking about right now is the time frames, which typically after an offer is accepted, if nothing's been changed on the contract, you have 3 weeks, 21 days to remove your final contingency, which is usually your loan contingency. So 3 weeks after acceptance, unless that's been modified, but that's common. So as long as we do everything within that first 3 weeks and we get out of that contract, you're gonna get your full Earnest Money Deposit back. But again, you need to, make sure you're working with the right people that are advising you through it and that you have a way out of the contract. So we're going to wrap up that section on earnest money deposit. Next, we're going to get into timeframes and contingencies and explain that in a little bit more detail. But if you have any questions, please comment below, and please like and subscribe this video as well. Thank you again for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.